Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and we are live, part of 24 videos in 24 hours. Yes, we're doing it here before the terms of service may kick us all off the platform for not being commercially viable. And joining me tonight, whenever you're watching this, is Taylor Hudak. She does great work for Action for Assange and the One versus Five Eyes campaign. And, we wanted to have her on not only to talk about those two issues, Julian Assange, largely censored in this country. We're not talking about that issue. Most people don't even know what Five Eyes is, let alone that there's a journalist that is fighting this campaign of an international, intergovernmental organization to spy on all of us. And it's one journalist. It's one. It's not like a big group. And they're fighting this Leviathan. No one's talking about it. Taylor is talking about it. Taylor, thank you for joining us. And how do we get people aware of these issues?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. So I think absolutely education is key. And I know that you are putting on this stream, and I think it's really important to do this because it brings awareness to this overall issue that YouTube is once again continuing to censor its users. What I find particularly disturbing about this is that I feel that the terms of service alteration here is really to change people's behavior. So I think that one thing people should be aware of too is that if more people speak up about this and speak out about it, and the more people that kind of spread information about this censorship, the better we can kind of combat this. Because at any point, of course, if people do push back enough, things can be reversed and ultimately not go down a really bad path. Interestingly, I wanted to bring this up as well because I'm sure your viewers know that I am very involved in the movement to free Julian Assange. Back in 2010, actually, he gave a speech where he was talking about censorship in particular. And he was saying that censorship is a problem in the West, and that oftentimes censorship in the West and corruption in the West is used to justify it elsewhere in the world. So in addition to that, he was also making the point that soon enough, it will be corporations who are implementing this censorship. And that's exactly and precisely what we're seeing right now.
100%. And even call what is, I guess, YouTube, which is Google, which is Alphabet, which is highly integrated into the military-industrial complex. You look at Google, and before we went live, I was discussing their involvement with NASA, not only in the space program, but in quantum computing. You see this again and again with Jeff Bezos and Amazon, and the fact that he owns the National Security Agency's rights to store their data as well. And with these large corporations being openly in bed with the government, I mean, we talked about quantum computing. Hey, Bezos is also invested in D-Wave, along with Goldman Sachs. And a lot of people, they talk about it being the technocracy because these are, unelected bureaucrats. But unfortunately, I see it more of as a technopoly, right? Because when a rival comes up on Twitter, for instance, right, like Gab, all of a sudden Gab, nothing but Nazis are on there. We need to censor Gab. BitChute, the same thing. No, you can't go to BitChute because it's a white nationalist platform, don't you know? And they not only use their smears, but their legal maneuvers. It really mirrors what they've done with Assange.
Oh, absolutely, it has. Absolutely, it has. And of course, we know that big tech is very much in bed with our government, and they have an extreme amount of power and control, and even within our political sphere specifically. I believe it was a couple months ago where Jimmy Dore was in fact talking to an ex-Facebook employee whose job it was to promote some of his work on Facebook, and because his message and the content of his work was considered Russian, they actually blacked out all of that information. Now, as far as with WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, we've seen very much the same thing, of course, and he even warned about this where he said that censorship has now also moved over to kind of censor press and censor reporters and journalists who are calling out, of course, the entities and the major powers who are involved and are benefiting from the military-industrial complex. Of course, we know that Julian Assange is being charged with espionage because of his journalistic work, which really revealed that the U.S. was engaging in war crimes overseas and in the Middle East. So I think we can only expect that this will continue to happen. But again, like I was saying earlier, if there is enough pushback, I do believe that some change could be initiated here. And that's sort of what you're doing with this live stream. Also, too, he made the interesting point, and this is Julian Assange again, made the interesting point about censorship. He said, of course, it is something that we should all condemn without a doubt. However, he said, quote, "It is always an opportunity because censorship reveals the fear of reform by knowledge." So considering that they're trying to censor people on YouTube, I would have to argue it's specifically those who have viewpoints, political viewpoints that do not mesh well with what is acceptable in the mainstream. It is because of those messages we're able to determine exactly what they are fearful of. And that's any challenge of power and authority.
Well, I hope that we can take that optimistic viewpoint, but I do think that there are those that once they are awakened to how serious this is, they do step up to the plate. But on the other hand, as you talked in the first segment, there's that idea of self-censorship. And that's why I want to just talk about this really quickly. Now, a guy named Tariq Hadid, he'd worked for Newsweek for some time. But he had attempted to publish the revelations of the leaks from WikiLeaks of the OPCW letters, where basically people that ran the investigation said the report did not reflect their findings. It basically eviscerated it. Now, I reported on this as soon as it came out. I did it on the leaked report prior to this. I reported that there was no attack in Duma when Pearson Sharp was on the ground and Robert Fisk was on the ground. And so this is about the fourth confirmation that somebody who worked in the mainstream media finally had to sit down and quit. This was the breaking point for this man. Now, let me say this. I applaud him for finally doing so and doing so publicly on such an issue. Where were you since April 2018 when Tulsi Gabbard clearly asked James Mattis before Congress if they had any evidence that a chemical attack had even taken place, and James Mattis said there was no evidence. So as good as what he did there, there's the self-censorship, Taylor. You know, either he was too ignorant to look at the issue or had looked at the issue and didn't want to bring it up because he knew it would mean his career. And that's a real problem, especially when people nowadays are just trying to go along to get along. They want to feel like a team. They want to feel like, you know, MAGA's going to save us on one side or Bernie's going to save us on the other. Here comes Grandma Oatmeal to fight the establishment when it's all a facade. I mean, let's be honest. The real issues go beyond the political party system and into a guy like Assange who's publishing documentation on everybody.
And continuing to do so. But you're right, self-censorship is something that Julian Assange even warned people about engaging in. And like I was saying, these terms of service, such regulations are implemented to alter people's behavior. And when I say that, I'm talking about self-censorship. What they do, of course, is that they create they de-incentivize people from telling the truth, and they actually make it detrimental to your career, whether financially or just your reputation, to portray and convey certain messages. They do that so that you censor your own behavior and your own work. And of course, when people continue to do that, we're giving into this larger oppressive assault on the First Amendment. And I hate to use that. It's such a common phrase that's used, but it's something we really do need to consider. Because oftentimes in the U.S. and in the West, we like to think that we have a free press and, a freedom of speech when we do not. We're very quick to point out other countries like Russia and China for not having free speech and for consistently hindering human rights and the issues that we care dearly about, or that we try to pretend that we care about. Like I said, I believe on last week when I was on your stream, or 2 weeks ago, I said, if you're a journalist and something bad happens to you because of what you're saying, you better hope that you are from Russia, because that is the only way that the American corporate media is going to acknowledge what happened to you or investigate what happened to you, or at least put some thought and at least say your name. If you're an American, no. That's not the case at all. And we've seen that with Max Blumenthal, of course.
Yeah, and you know what? Max recently got released, and now he's going to try to take action against
Right.
these people. You know, again, you're not allowed to tell the truth about Venezuela. Listen, let's talk about that for a second, because, you know, talk about self-censorship. You know, we're sitting here talking about geopolitics and whatnot. Before I get there, I want to say thank Hebro and Josh Freeman for the super chats, keeping it alive, keeping independent media going. But how are we supposed to tell the truth? And when I say we, I mean the establishment media, whether it be CNN, MSNBC, Fox, doesn't matter what flavor it is. The truth about Syria, Afghanistan, even the revelations Chelsea Manning put out there about Abu Ghraib, Guantanamo Bay, other black sites, right? How are we supposed to tell the truth about that when right now there's no media that will report the truth on an athlete, aka Conor McGregor, that he brutally beat, raped, and sodomized a girl now a year ago? When people watch that happened a year ago on the 10th, guys. So a year ago about today, Conor did that in front of people. We have multiple police sources that have said all the evidence shows that, including eyewitness accounts and forensic accounts, and there's not one publication in this country, not one, not the New York Times, not CNN, not ABC, CBS, you know, ABC getting through the ringer on Epstein. Not one of them have reported what I just said. And he's in a fight that's going to make WME Entertainment, Disney, ESPN, and the UFC hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions. If they can't report the truth about that, Taylor, what hope do we have against the Leviathan that is the multi-trillion-dollar military media industrial complex?
So I would tell you that our hope would be in independent media. Fortunately, we are seeing a trend where the audience is definitely shifting. Most people, especially young people, are not tuning into cable news to get their information, and they're more skeptical of the media. That does not include the majority of all people who consume news, but the trends are showing that people are seeking alternative media and independent media to get their news. So that's one positive about this. However, with certain regulations being implemented, like the one with YouTube, which will be effective December 10th, it makes it really, really difficult, because what's essentially going to happen is that you don't even have the ability to do so. So before, they just demonetized your work and you wouldn't make money off of it, or they would make it so it was very difficult for your videos to be seen, I guess, with their algorithms. But now they're actually threatening to remove your account. So I think the best thing people could do is to seek out other platforms to sort of exist on. At this point, it's unfortunate it's gotten to that point, but I still think there is some room for optimism. But it's also on the, on the backs of those in independent media to be covering the stories that are not being covered, and to be talking about Conor McGregor and those issues.
I 100% agree. And at the same time, I think we still have to utilize this platform. Another reason I'm doing the 24 videos in 24 hours, because it's as big, if not bigger than TV. And in a lot of ways, it's bigger than TV because it's global everywhere. If you speak English or you read subtitles in another country, guess what? You can watch Jason Burmis. And honestly, about 40% of my audience, according to the analytics, is outside of the United States. I'd say about 15% of it is like a traditionally non-English speaking audience. And you guys have a YouTube channel. You guys do vigils every single Wednesday night, and you got some big bump after this last one where Ray McGovern gave a bombshell interview, just incredible, talking about how he had been subpoenaed because some of the information he wrote about via Seth Rich and WikiLeaks. We can't talk about that. It's Russian agents. But it was not only a good time, but you guys are on the verge now of possibly being monetized, allowing your channel to grow, and maybe getting a little bit more viewership and light on the very dark subject that is our country falsely indicting Julian Assange, and the country of the United Kingdom, Britain, going along to get along and looking like they're going to extradite him here if he survives. So how can we boost your YouTube channel, Action for Assange? Tell the people why they need to subscribe.
Yes. We talk about issues that you cannot find anywhere else. We are absolutely focused on, of course, Julian Assange and his case, and also highlighting and amplifying the work of WikiLeaks. And you could follow us on YouTube at Action, the number 4, Assange. We are live every Wednesday evening at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a great panel. It's myself and Christy Doff, Steve Poikinen of Slow News Day Show. I encourage everybody to also check out Steve's show. You could follow him on YouTube at Slow News Day Show and also on Twitter at the same handle. And then also Andrew Smith. So it's the 4 of us. We all have our unique personalities. So not only are we talking about some very serious material, but we also do bring some humor to these issues when it's appropriate, of course. And it's very entertaining. And so again, it is information you will not find anywhere else. And we really do interact with our viewers in the live chat. We're always really focused on what our viewers want to hear about. So we do care about that as well. In addition to talking about the really, really important issue of Julian Assange and his case. So I encourage everybody to check that out. I know we did get quite a few viewers last time when you were on our show. It was a great episode. Like you were saying, Ray McGovern, literally dropped a bombshell. So I think we were all pretty shocked.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked, and I hadn't talked to Ray in almost a decade, so I'd love to thank you guys for that opportunity. I'm actually, as long as I'm here, I got him on Tuesday. We're going to talk a half an hour about that and much more. There's a true activist, somebody who was inside the government, somebody who later on not only spoke out for the anti-war movement, but the anti-surveillance state movement, and in my opinion, the truth movement, especially when we're talking about these WikiLeaks documents. Her name is Taylor Hudak. Action for Assange is the website. 1versus5i.com is the website. You can follow her at _. Get that underscore in there. Taylor Hudak. What would you like to leave us with?
Yeah, I would just like to leave everybody with please support Julian Assange. Please bring awareness to his case. When you see misinformation about him being spread by the mainstream media, do correct it. I believe that this audience is intelligent enough and is very understanding of the facts of that case, because I know you talk about it frequently, to correct people on this and to hold them accountable. And also others you see in independent media who aren't covering it, put pressure on them to cover Julian Assange, because we need to keep his name out there in the public sphere so that people don't forget about him. And also do check out our vigils. Again, those are held every Wednesday evening at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Action for Assange YouTube channel.
Taylor, thank you so much for coming on. And we're going to have Christy, Steve, and Andrew on during this 24 videos in 24 hours. Guys, make sure you go check out Action for Assange right now. She does great work along with her fellow co-hosts. If you like this video, if you want to be part of the Burmis Brigade, now's the time to subscribe. Share this video on social media, but you could also text it to a friend. You think something's important? Maybe text it to a friend. Say, hey, check out these 2 really smart people. Wait, they're not that smart. Wait, they're still telling more truth than the mainstream media. Share it with people. Share this information. Check out my documentary films. If people only speak in movie anymore, that's why I made films. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade, the motion picture, all available free right here. And if you want to support me financially, this is it. It's Christmas time. I want to grow. You want me to grow. Do you want 7 videos a day? I want to give them to you. I do. It's tough. I'm trying to make it today, but today we're not doing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're doing 24 videos in 24 hours. If we're going out with a bang. I love you guys, and I will see you on the flip side. Robbie Martin coming up next at the top of the hour.